In this episode of Film Stock Reviews, I'm reviewing episode 6 of Reboot titled Bewitched. Now, this episode was probably the most fun I've had watching this show. And in this episode, Reed and Bree are trying to figure out these three guests that are at this hotel and Reed and Bree are staying at because, they used to play this game when they were going out about, so many years ago. And Reed figures out who these people are, and then Bree and Reed spy on them. That story is interesting. And then Bree asks Reed to, hey, you know what has good chicken parm at this restaurant? Let's do a date night. So Bree, you can tell, still likes Reed after all these years, but Reed is in a relationship with Nora. He gets a phone call on the elevator at the beginning of this episode, and basically is like, Nora's like freaking out because of a play, and she kind of knows that Reed and Bree have a history. So Bree kind of in a way finds out that Reed still loves her by kind of coming down from the elevator from her room and kind of catching a last moment where Reed says to Nora, I love you, goodbye. Reed's like, okay, you know what, let's cancel this date night. And Reed's like, yeah, I'm thinking that too. So as they're going back on the elevator, the three guests come out and they're being arrested. And Bree and Reed are like, oh, shit, fuck. They're trying to figure out what to do. And that was a great part right there with that. Now, Johnny Knoxville's character, Clay, it's a really short, he wasn't really prominent in this episode. Basically, we know that he's going to these AA meetings, and in order to make things better, he has to apologize to certain people, and one of those people is the director of the show, and he tries to do it, but he can't because he doesn't know how to, and the director of the show leaves him up on this harness and kind of gives it into Clay and kind of tells him, like, listen, this is how you're supposed to do it. So Clay, in a way, kind of says I'm sorry, but in a like in a emotional way to the director of the show, and really, like, the director's like, you know what, I accept that apology, I'll take it. It's a really fun, interesting moment with them, and it's really, really good, but it's really short how limited Johnny Knoxville's character was in this episode. Now we have Zach and Elaine. Now basically, Zach and Elaine, Zach likes Elaine a lot, and he wants to ask her out. So basically, in a kind of a way, Zach asks Hannah to find out from HR, who HR is in this, the character's name is Mallory, what happens with, someone, if you ask someone out and all that. Well, Hannah goes to Zach and says, okay, you only have one shot to ask them out. If they say no, you can't ask them again because that's considered harassment. So Zach kind of, in a way, is like, hey, there's this Pulp Fiction thing going on tonight. You have to dress up in costume. And then Elaine's phone rings, and he can't finish what he was going to say, and he's like, was that it? Now, going back to Hannah is speaking to the HR Mallory, who I said wanted to find out about Zach, if Zach can ask a question to Elaine about going out. Well, Hannah kind of, likes Mallory in a way. You can tell by the way she's smitten. And her father, Gordon, played by Paul Reiser, is listening in with one of the other coworkers and kind of sees that everything's happening. It's a great back and forth, and this entire sequence and story is great because you see Hannah like, okay, I like women. What's going on? Gordon's like, let me help out and see. So he gets his writer's room to do a kind of social media search where one of the younger writers looks into the history in the past, and they do it, and it's like, she's not this and this, she is, and Hannah finds out that this happens as she comes into the writer's room meeting. Mallory's sitting there, is like, okay, what's happening? All the writers are doing instant and funny jokes here and there, especially the older woman. She's like, listen, hey, if I mention Tony Danza's, cock, like, is that gonna get me fired? He's like, she's like, well, you shouldn't mention that. He's like, but listen, I don't think it's Tony Danza's cock. It's pretty funny how it's delivered, and it was funny, and it was great. I was laughing my ass off. It was hilarious. And Hannah's like, what are you doing, Dad? This is not... And Gordon's like, listen, hey, figured everything out. You can do it. One shot. That's all you have. So Hannah, in a way, as she escorts out Mallory, Hannah's like, I want to ask you something. And Mallory's like, yes, I'll go out with you. Oh, okay. And Hannah's like, And Hannah's like, oh, okay, sure, yeah, great. She's like, there you go. Now you can save your one question. She's like, but Mallory's like, yeah, but if we, there's a second date and everything, we have to file some corporate paperwork and everything. And then Hannah's like, well, you better get those paperwork ready. And then as Hannah looks, you see the entire writer's room and her father looking out and seeing what's happening. Hannah's happy. It's great. This was a really fun episode. Really not seriously taken. It's great to see this different aspect of comedy between Keegan-Michael Key, Judy Greer, Johnny Knoxville, Rachel Bloom, Paul Reiser, Kayla Worthy, and Krista Marie Yu. Like, they all each have a different dynamic of how they get their dialogue into comedy across. Some is dry, some is perfect, some is interesting. Like Gordon's character, Paul Reiser's character, basically he's like, yeah, all these LGTV people, whatever's going on. One of the coworkers like, that's a TV, right? Because he's trying to say LGBTQ, but he can't say it, he can't get it out. It's great. It's simple writing. It's fun writing. This is the 6th episode, and there's 2 episodes left. It's an 8-episode first season. I'm really hoping that this show does get picked up for a second season, because you can add more characters into this, and you can add a lot of dynamic and comedy to it, and it's great. I have a blast with this. I didn't expect to enjoy this show, because anytime there's a show that comes on randomly and is not really marketed out there, it really goes under the radar. But this right now is a show, one of those shows for the 2022 fall season that you're missing out on, and you need to check it out. It's funny, it's hilarious, it's great. If you like these actors and actresses in other TV shows and movies, you will enjoy this one immensely. So let me know in the comment section below what you thought about episode 6 of Reboot, titled Bewitched. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you think of it? What do you think is going to happen now with only 2 episodes left? Let me know in the comment section below about all the questions I just asked. And I'll see you all in the next review video. And be sure you tune in next week to my episode 7 review of Reboot.